You've found AHO Radio. We're authentic human outliers coming together to help heal the fear of being authentic. To bring back genuine human conversation. No hype, no sensationalism, just honest talk about the critical issues affecting society, affecting humankind. And now, here are the hosts of AHO Radio, John Karotek and Bill Protzmann.
As the earth takes a moment to release its pain. Let it rain, let it rain, let it rain. And all my people, take your time to heal the pain. Let it rain, let it rain, let it rain. And as the world comes together, let us see that we are one love, one heart, stand united. United hearts, we are. Let off some steam.
Yeah. Start to play. As usual, these are unscripted, so I just started the recording, and at some point or another, we'll get something that is useful for the start of the interview.
Sounds good to me.
Right? This is all about being in a spontaneous place. I was, as I sometimes do, I took a walk, and I was thinking about, I made a list of potential subjects that I wanted to talk to you about. But let's start with one that is, well, let me set it up this way. So a teacher I really admire and respect has taught me to always start with relationship. So let's do that.
Okay.
And the best question that I have for that is one that I know you'll love. What's the music on your heart right now, Crystal?
The music on my heart?
Yeah.
What's the music on my heart right now? That's a really good question. Does it have to be a particular song?
Well, it doesn't have to be. I mean, sometimes it's not,
I would say, and this is going to sound a little strange, but when you asked that question, I thought violin.
Violin.
Yeah.
So that beautiful,
I just hear strings coming in.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I really resonate for that. Violin, is it playing just like long tones, or what do you hear when you hear violins or
Just
violin?
I would say just very long tones, soothing. Yeah, that's what I hear when I tune into my heart.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I get it, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel like this is a hard question to ask, but do you feel like there's an emotion with that, or thoughts with that, or some like sight, sound,
Yeah.
obviously, taste? Is there any of that?
Let me tune in. So,
Yeah, listen.
yeah. There's definitely a lot of emotion, I would say. There's a lot of any kind of emotion, really. I could say love, I could say sorrow, I could say happiness, sadness. So it's almost like every emotion tied into one. It's almost like it's a complete melody.
Is the note a high note or low note? Just where in the sound spectrum do you hear it?
It sounds more like a mid-tone.
like a mid-tone. So
A
like
mid-tone, and
ah.
there's some higher tones in there. Yeah, there's like a mid-tone, some higher tones. Yeah.
Well, you're a singer. Can you sing the note that you hear?
And then I hear, and then a little bit of all playing at
At the
once.
same time, all
Yes.
three tones. I love that. And all the emotions in it. This
Yes.
I'm always curious how like one note or even three notes can be
Hmm.
so full of emotion. Do they connect to you with like anything in life?
Let's see. With the tones, I would say family. Yeah. Yeah. When I really tune in, I would say family and wholeness. Just that completeness that I feel when I'm connected to not only my family, but my uh, the connections that I have in life, just friends. It could be friends, family, doesn't have to be blood, but that's what I feel when I
Yeah, yeah.
connect with others. Yeah.
Like the whole circle of your family, gathered in
Yes.
these three tones.
Yes.
Do the tones represent anyone specifically?
I would say the tones I feel represent our higher selves. So it's almost like all of the souls coming together.
Right, right. So there's no individual, like
No
this note belongs to
individual.
Bill, this note belongs to Crystal. It's like it's all of it.
It's all, it's everything and everything and everyone all in this one tone. So it encompasses everything.
It's it isn't lost on me that you brought family in,
Yeah.
because a lot of the questions that I wrote down that I wanted to sort of explore if we ran out of things to do otherwise
Hmm.
were about family. And I wanted to ask you how your music is connected to being a mother.
Mm. I would say when I create music, I don't particularly create music, for my daughter or uh, she doesn't really participate in it. But what I do is when I create music, I always have her listen. So
Ah,
that's what makes it so special. And she loves seeing me in the studio. She says, Mommy, are you going to go and make some music today in the studio? Or say I'm having a rough day. She says, Mommy, I think you need to go to the studio and make some music now. So we have this really special connection when it comes to music. And I feel she's musically inclined as well. And it makes me so proud when I can compose a piece of music and have her listen, just getting her reactions and her responses to it. And every time she's just so happy to hear the music. And it's almost like she's proud to say, my mom creates music. She thinks it's so cool.
yeah.
So that's how I feel. Um, music is connected to my daughter. That's how I would connect it, is her just being there and being part of the process, which is so beautiful.
It's very special that she wants to encourage you.
Yes, she wants to encourage me. Yeah, she can sense it. She can pick up on how special the music is and when it's needed, which I find very interesting. And children are just so pure. They're so joyous all of the time. She has so much energy. She's always bouncing around. And as adults, we lose that. So
Yeah,
sometimes I
yeah.
forget to, play or bring play or fun into my life as I'm doing my normal day to day task, routines, my chores. She reminds me of that every single day. It's so special. And part of what she reminds me is, hey, I know that music is your thing. So just remember to bring music into everything that you do. And thank God for her.
I know, right? It keeps
Yeah.
you engaged
Yes. Yes.
and co-creative too, because all of the music that she is present for your creation of is this. I'm bungling my grammar, but she will remember that she was there, right?
Yeah. Definitely. Oh
in these
yeah,
songs in this moment.
definitely. And it's funny because she's only 4, but she can recall times where we were in the studio when she was even 2 years old. Remember when we did this, or remember when we sang this together? And I'm like, are you kidding me? You remember that? So these are memories that she's always going to have. And she always has this connection to happiness or, joyfulness when we're in the studio, when we're creating music, which is why she constantly brings it up.
There are no mistakes, are there?
No.
And the family that you have included also with your partner
Yes.
is part of this as well.
Yes.
Do you know, just as you're thinking about it now, how it was that family and why it was that family arrived for you in these three tones?
I would say because it feels like the tones were almost embodying all of my emotions. And my family brings out every side of me.
Oh
It
my
brings
gosh,
out,
isn't that the truth?
pushes all of my buttons and buttons that I didn't know were there,
Yeah.
brings out every side of me. And I feel like that's what these tones represent. And I think it's just so special to have people in your circle, in your life, that are able to see every side of you but still love you unconditionally.
I, of course, know part of the answer to this, but I'll ask it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Do you and your family sing together?
I sing with my daughter. However, I do not sing with my husband. He's not big on on
Yeah, no
singing,
judgment on this. I'm just
but
curious.
yeah, he does love like the binaural beats that I
Sure.
produce. So he listens to all of the music that I produce. But me and my daughter, oh yeah, we have so much fun singing together. Yeah.
It's a creative duet.
Yes.
Have you felt, I mean, I never like felt this, but I'm curious as a parent myself with kids,
Hmm.
do you feel a certain desire to want to teach your daughter?
Oh yeah, and I do. Yeah,
How
definitely.
does that go? Because, I know how I grew up, but tell me how it's working for you. And let's ask her for her name if you don't mind. Can we share?
Yeah, of course. Her name is Elara, Elara. She's always been drawn to music. Kind of reminds me of myself when I was younger. She goes in my studio and she'll just go on the keyboard and she
Yeah,
starts
just
like
start playing.
pretending and playing. I'm not like I know Bill, you're a big piano player and really great at what you do, but I'm self-taught with a lot of the things that I do, so I'm not like the best.
Oh,
So I do what I can.
we're not talking about
Uh,
judgment here, but
yeah.
there's an inspiration factor, right?
Right, right,
Like
right.
my mom was a completely different person,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so I grew up in a musical lane that's much different than yours.
Mm-hmm.
But your lane seems so amazingly like beautiful and remarkable to me because it's so unfamiliar. So as I'm thinking of, Alara, what is it that what is it that's getting into her? Like I'm so interested to know what she's taking away from this and what she
Yeah,
does in her spare, like
yeah.
playing on the keyboard or pretending to play on the keyboard. And
Right. She
she must,
pretends to play on the keyboard and then she sees I open up my software, my program, and I'm putting in different instruments, different melodies, different sounds, and just putting them together and creating what she thinks is just fun. Like anyone can really do this, right? You could just put some sounds together, and she's fascinated by that. And as I'm layering in, let's just say some vocals, I'll just have her in the corner. I'm like, shh, be quiet so mommy can record her vocals. So I start recording, and she's just watching the whole time. And there are some times where she wants to come in, and she sits and she's in front of the microphone. It's just, mommy, can I sing some vocals? And I'm like, okay. So she starts singing. So I feel like, in a sense, she's just mirroring, what I'm doing. She's learning. I would say she's more inclined to want to sing.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Like she picks up the instruments and stuff, but she's more fascinated with singing.
yeah,
And
with the
that's what I've
voice.
been more working on with her. I've been teaching her the benefits of like humming and, oh, if you're in a bad mood, just start to hum. So, believe it or not, like I've been doing this with her since she was very young, And a few times she caught me off guard, but I was so proud of her. I said, "Oh, mommy, I'm so angry right now." And she goes, and it's the cutest thing. And she gets down and she crosses her legs and she starts humming. And there was another time when she says, "Mommy, you're very upset." And she goes, hum. I just start
Our kids are
laughing.
such
Yeah,
mirrors, right?
it's hilarious.
Has she like taught any of her friends yet?
I'm not sure. Yeah, she just started her preschool, so her pre-K 4, and she goes for like 2 hours a day, so it's not for too long. But I'm not sure. I wish I could see like what she's doing in the classroom. She doesn't have any real friends that come over to the house yet, so we'll see as her friendships start to develop, I'm sure. I'm sure she'll start to teach them.
I'm curious if you asked her what her music is right now, what would her response be?
I
Right?
know, I know. I would be
Would
so
she offer
curious.
something or improvise a song
I
for
bet she
you?
would sing. Yeah, I bet she would sing. And she's really good at just on the spot, just freestyling. Like she'll just come up with these brilliant melodies, and I'm like, where is this coming from? And it's amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
you have to record her, you
Oh,
know,
definitely. Yeah.
if she's before it all goes away, like before she discovers video games, whatever it is that kids discover these
Actually, I
days.
think I have one track that I did record, and I featured her on one of my songs. At the end, she sang like a little melody. I'll have to find that.
Oh, how beautiful.
But it's so precious. Yeah.
Yes. And, back in the day, we had cameras and film, and then we had
Right.
movie cameras. We could record, but being able to record sound as authentically as we can now,
I know.
it's it's a fascinating opportunity to think that you guys could co-create music
Yes. Yes.
when she's still so young,
And
right?
she's only 4, yeah.
Right. And that might music might speak. I don't know of any. We all know kids songs, right? There's kids recordings out there, where they
Of
all have kids
course.
singing, but
Of course.
what you do is so much different than that. And I was going to use the word healing, but I think there's something deeper than that that's going on
Mm-hmm.
here,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it's so inspired.
Yes.
And
Yes.
obviously, it's inspired not only through you, but also through your daughter. This is
Mm-hmm.
this is what a marvelous time to be able to capture that
Yes,
and bring it to the world.
absolutely. It's there's just so much intention that goes into it, and I feel it's the intention that matters the most when we're creating, even if it's just needing to, like we spoke about before, Bill, on when I had you on my podcast, how it's just so healthy, to release and to use music to maybe let out some anger, or channel it through the music, allow the music to be your medicine. But for Alara right now, her music, I feel, is just all joy. So
Yes,
the intention behind when we're creating music is just joyful energy.
yes, which is perfect because what does
Right.
our world need, right?
Exactly.
Other than joy. But you mentioned something that's really interesting to me too, where she's able to recognize anger and deal with it in a way that is so beautifully appropriate and simple
Yes.
and and transformative.
Yes, absolutely. I know. I'm so amazed at, and the thing is, these kids, they just absorb this knowledge, and we think that they don't understand because we have to become so repetitive and we're telling them over and over and over again until that day comes and they actually do what you were telling them to do over the past, how many months. And you're like, wow, it pays off. So, parents, don't give up. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's your next recording, right? Music for parents
Exactly.
from Crystal Sun and Alara. Oh, I, I'm well, actually, I'm a little bit jealous that I didn't have like a parent who could do that for me. But then, we do what we do, and we
Exactly.
come to this in however way that we can.
Right.
She will have such a head start
Oh, yeah. Oh,
on
yeah. I'm
on,
so
on
excited for
things.
her.
Let's talk for a minute about breath because I want to ask you if you've ever taught her how to breathe.
Yes. Yes. We talk about breathing, especially when she's crying, because she
Yeah.
tends to cry and she starts hyperventilating. So I have to walk her through, like, calm down, say use your words. She doesn't want to necessarily use her words. So I try not to say that a lot because I feel like that's like just pushed on kids. Sometimes they just
Yeah,
need to cry and let it out, or they may not want to speak. So,
as we all do.
exactly. So, what I do is instead, I actually ask her to breathe. Can you breathe in for me? Just to kind of help calm her down a little bit. And she does it pretty well. She takes her nice deep breath in. I'm like, okay, how do you feel now? Better. Like,
Better.
okay. It's adorable. Yeah. Yeah. I love working with the breath. Yeah.
People are learning techniques that are incredibly healthy in spite of how dramatic they can appear in the world, where you're holding your breath
Exactly.
and expanding your breath capability. And it's something we can all do. But I think perhaps that the earlier you can get to it, the more fundamental that becomes.
Mm,
And I want to know in your own sort of growing up musically, when you became conscious of breath and how
mm.
that changed you.
It changed a lot because I didn't notice how much I would tense up throughout the day and hold my breath.
It would cave in,
Yeah.
collapse
Kind
over
of
our
cave in.
keyboards.
And it's like, oh, I'm like this. And I'm like, oh, and I'm holding my breath. And sometimes when I would make music in the past, I would be too focused on it coming out perfect. So I would like tense up, hold my breath. My stomach is like crunched in. And I'm just like, I just want this to come out perfect. And I'm stressing myself out. And I can feel all of the muscles in my body just tensing up. My head is hurting. I'm like, what am I doing to myself? Until I started to learn the proper breathing techniques. But the thing is, when I first learned proper breathing techniques with singing, I didn't necessarily connect it to like a meditative practice
Oh,
or
right.
incorporating the breathing
This is the
into.
breath I bring to my instrument. This is the breath.
Exactly. I didn't connect the two until I started actually getting into, my meditation and getting into yoga and getting more deeper into my spirituality. Then that's when I started to notice, wow, a lot of the stuff that I was taught, even playing clarinet back in high school,
Right, right.
and all of the different breathing techniques I was taught, these are exactly what I learned, but you just apply them, the techniques differently. So it's all the same. So that's what fascinated me. And now I have to say, because of that, I'm very, very mindful. Throughout my day, I love to bring that breath into everything that I do. I find that the breath, it's almost like it energizes the mind, body, soul. It helps to calm everything down and it helps to release those endorphins that we really need as well. At least for me, especially when I'm in those stressful situations.
I love this work because so many people don't bring their conscious awareness
Mm-hmm.
to breathing, and just doing that is so much better than not.
Right.
But oftentimes we get into a place, and I'll just share from my personal experience, maybe you can
Mm-hmm.
give some pointers that might help other people as well. Busy networking environments that are in person
Mm-hmm.
are often so loud that you have to raise your voice just to be able to talk to the person you're right next to and for them to be
Right.
able to hear you. And after about 20 minutes of that, I'm pretty much at the end of my voice. I will totally lose it. I've been
Yes.
pushing,
Mm-hmm.
we
Mm-hmm.
like to say vocally, right?
Yes.
Which isn't good. It hurts. So, what would you say to someone who, like me, is in that place and wants to use their voice and breath more skillfully to
Mm-hmm.
project without being like forceful or stressing or pushing?
Mm-hmm. There is a way to project the voice so that you're not straining the voice. So, but I have not tried. I'm going to be honest, I haven't tried it in public. So I don't have too much experience with it. But what I hear is it's just a breath, like a breathing practice. You would breathe in, and on the exhale, when you're exhaling out, you find your natural sound. So, for example, you like inhale, ah. So this is my natural
Uh,
speaking voice. So it's like this. So if I'm speaking like this, I can raise my voice like that, even though it sounds kind of weird.
mhm.
But it's like, hey, you have to protect your voice. So you can start to raise your voice like this, and it puts absolutely no strain on your voice. So I guess that's what I would recommend to do. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm going to try it next time I'm in a loud room, which I mean, it's been a while since I've been in a loud room
Yes,
because of
fortunately,
COVID.
right?
Yeah.
That sort of leads into something that we mentioned the last time we spoke. When you're doing this holistic work,
Right.
oftentimes I feel it takes more energy out of me than I would spend if I were not doing this work.
Right.
And I know that sounds kind of crazy because there's people who are like programming and coding and doing all kinds of other great things, and they get tired at the end of the week too. But most of the time, physically, I'm just kind of sitting here writing, speaking on Zoom,
Hmm.
and yet I feel by the end of the week like I've done a full week's work. I could
Yeah.
have been out shoveling all week long or something. I feel that
Right.
tired.
Yes.
What's the way that you recover from that and
That's a great
find your
question
energy?
because I'll be doing that this weekend.
I
Uh,
hope I will too.
so typically for me, just a lot of self care. Because the thing is, we expend a lot of energy. I would consider myself an energy worker. So I also channel in energy as part of what I do for my work. And there comes a time where I draw from my own energy because there's really no energy to tap into. So
Yeah, yeah.
there's like these energetic ebbs and flows, and sometimes the energy is like, nope, you can't tap in. It's time to rest. But we can't necessarily rest because our schedules are telling us otherwise. So we're pulling from our own energy, which drains us, which makes us very tired. So for me personally, I'll work as hard as I need to, but I will rest just as hard. So I'll do whatever I need to do for self care, whether that's making music, soaking in a bath, going to a sauna, going to the gym. So it's just healthy ways to really tune up my energy and restore my energy. Maybe get extra sleep, get really lazy, just watch some Netflix, whatever you need to do to make yourself feel better. I make sure that I take that time just to give to myself.
Do you find that listening to your own music re-energizes you?
Absolutely.
How does
Yeah.
that work? I mean, you already know the music, right? So what's
Yeah.
the, help us connect the dots.
I think it's when I'm creating, like, for example, my album that I have out, that Solfeggio album. I When I'm creating this music, I set very specific intentions for each track. And when I go back to this music, it's almost like I tap back into that intention, or it's almost like my energy syncs with that specific intention and it fuels me, and it helps to heal me. So I can listen to the music over and over again. It's almost like, I know this is going to sound a little strange, but it's almost like it's not my music, because when I was in that flow state of creativity, it's almost like I forgot like what I did exactly. So it wasn't really me.
I got you completely. I've,
Yeah,
got a couple channeled albums and I can't repeat that stuff.
exactly. So that's what it is. I listen, and sometimes I listen to my own music and I I can't connect with it in a way. I think it's more about the judgment. And that's what I used to do with my previous music when I was younger, the music that I would create when I worked in Hollywood. Creating music from a place of, I just want this music to be entertaining. I want this music to sell. So the entire time you're trying to get all of the notes perfect, you're trying to get all of the production.
It's a holy purpose,
Right,
but your
exactly.
purpose has gotten even more holy, right?
Yes. So I think taking out that judgment and just being a clear vessel, just a channel for music, has helped me make music, as well as being able to listen to the music that this channel is creating.
Your family is so fortunate to have a center of energy in this way within it. And I'm saying that from a very different perspective because, and this isn't a gender related thing, but the male energy
Hmm.
has a somewhat different kind of purpose and function. And I'm not talking
Right.
about gender identity or anything like that. It's just like there's a maleness around what guys do with music,
Hmm. Hmm.
and there's a femaleness around what gals do with music. And the divine masculine and feminine qualities of that are both necessary.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
it's so fortunate that your family has that divine musical power energy within it right from the
Yes,
start,
yes, yes.
which is a kind of a leading way of setting up my question, which is I know in my own work, I'm sometimes challenged to go into that female musical energy,
Hmm.
and sometimes it's equally challenging to go to the male musical energy. Do you feel that kind of divine gender pull within the music that you do?
Yes, yes, because
How's it feel for you?
it's an energy. So let me see if I can describe it the best way that I can. It's kind of difficult describing energy, but let's see. Uh,
Maybe the three tones that we started with, the violin.
yeah. So when I'm tapping into, okay. So I would say the divine masculine is just more drums. It's a little bit more aggressive. It feels very releasing, freeing. It feels, yeah, feels like almost like you want to work out. And
Yeah, I got you.
I'm
It,
trying to explain it, yeah. Uh, and the female energy feels very flowy, angelic. But at the same time, what I find with my music is I combine a little bit of that divine masculine with the feminine to just kind of balance it out. But that's the best way I can really describe it.
oh, I resonate for that. I've been wondering, how to answer that question for a while
Hmm.
because it's something that as musicians we're faced with that, whether we're repeating the music that somebody has written or
Right.
creating something that's brand new,
Hmm.
it's part of the intention in some way.
Right.
And it's beyond emotion. At least it feels like that. Do you feel that as well? It's not like a specific thing.
It's not a specific thing. It's definitely more of an emotion that you have to embody and you'll feel energetically within your body. So when I'm creating from this space, I can tell if it's a more aggressive, you know, I guess divine masculine track, or I can feel if it's just a softer feminine track. But I'm sure you know what I'm talking about,
I
but
do. And
sorry if
it's
it
no, no,
doesn't
no,
make
I've got
sense.
it.
Yeah.
And this is, if you're listening to this right now, one of the hardest things about this is trying to explain,
Yeah.
with a limited word vocabulary, what's
Yeah.
happening in this musical space where the words don't really work any longer, right?
Not at all. Yeah.
The flip side of that is that I also feel there's a very powerful feminine energy that enters music
Hmm. Hmm.
and a very, well, I almost said submissive, but I don't think that's the right word for it. A very nurturing, maybe male energy
Yeah.
that's within the music,
Yeah.
like you would try to catch a snowflake without holding it.
Right.
You know it's going to melt, but
Right.
for a moment you have it in your hand. That's the kind of like male energy that I'm trying to describe here.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
female energy is the energy that's blowing the snow, right? And making this beautiful
Yes.
swirl out of it. But if the energy is strong enough, it'll blow you over,
Exactly. So you have
right?
to find that fine balance between the
It's
two.
that, yeah, it's the dance,
Yes.
the dance of it all. Ah, wow, this is getting deep,
I know.
but in a beautiful way.
Definitely.
Uh,
Yeah.
what's the most challenging part of musical creation for you?
I would say there's nothing that I feel is challenging musically, but what is challenging is when I find it hard to get out of my head. So
Oh,
when I'm
so
creating
so
music,
technical like singing or whatever, the mechanics of it are
yeah, the
okay.
mechanics of it are
Okay.
okay. The energy is, it's, that's the part that will get stuck if I'm stuck in my head trying to figure out, say, the technical side of things, or something may leave me a little frustrated where I'm in my program and I'm, putting in different melodies and it's like, oh, this doesn't sound right, and I'm trying to reprogram a few things or tweak a few things. That takes the energy back up to my headspace.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's this constant act of staying grounded within my heart, so that way I'm able to really tap back into that creative frequency, that creative energy. So I would say the most challenging aspect to it is, yes, that is just being mindful of not staying, stuck up here
Yeah, stuck in
too
the head.
long. Yes.
Which now this is a challenging question that just occurred to me, but if you are a creator listening to this and a lot of your creativity is head stuff, you're doing intellectual heavy lifting, how do you use music to sort of reconnect with your heart?
You can use, for me, I find that music and energy helps me to balance out the left and the right hemispheres,
Right, right. The analytical and the
right? The analytical and the
whatever the other thing.
creative side of things. So it can really be like, for me personally, I am a big believer in binaural beats,
Sure.
brainwave entrainment. So if I can listen to a track that gets me more into the theta state, I'm good.
Right. So everybody's out there dialing up,
Yeah.
brainwave on theta state right now.
Yes, theta state, I am amazingly just ready to work. Also, I find personally that the alpha state helps me too sometimes. You can experiment with it yourself for anyone who's listening, but the theta state is just amazing. I listen to this and it's almost like it brings me right back down where I need to be. So that's what it's there's no other way. That's what works for me. So,
It's
yeah.
totally cool. The theta state puts me to sleep. I go into lucid dreaming.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is cool. I mean, why not? It's often a great
Exactly.
place to,
Exactly.
to reconnect. So I completely agree with you. Experiment. Don't
Yeah,
do it behind the
experiment.
wheel.
Yeah, don't do it behind the wheel. I don't recommend that
Not a great
at all.
thing. But I'll put some links in the show notes for people who want to get a binaural beat generator. Talk to us about what a binaural beat really is and how it happens.
Of course. Yes. So binaural beats pretty much entrain the brain, or it tricks the brain into different brainwave states. So when I'm in the studio and I'm creating binaural beats, the way that I create binaural beats is I take one brainwave frequency. So say we have 50 hertz. I pan this to the right. So you're hearing 50 hertz in one ear. And then I'll take like 56 hertz and you're hearing this in your left ear. Your brain, however, is hearing the difference of these two frequencies. So your brain is picking this up as 6 hertz, which is just, it's like mind blowing.
Literally.
Yeah. And 6 hertz is a theta brainwave. So, theta brainwave, like I said, I love it, but it's also good if you're looking to get more into a meditative state. You're also in a natural theta state just before you go to sleep at night and just, when you wake up in the morning. So, that's why they say it's really good to meditate at those times during the day or at night. So, what this does is it tricks your brain into different brainwave states. So, let's just say that we are in constant alpha state where our brainwave activity just cannot calm down. We're in our fight or flight state, and we need something to help bring the brain waves back down. We can listen to binaural beats to help assist our brainwaves, so to speak. So if you're someone who's suffering from like insomnia, you can't get to sleep at night, you can actually listen to binaural beats. I would recommend delta brainwaves, and this will put us straight to sleep. I've tried it so many times when I had trouble sleeping, and it works wonderfully. I've had a lot of, clients even just rave on about how wonderful it's been. So that in a nutshell is what binaural beats are, what they do, and how they work to
And headphones,
help.
please, people.
And
So it
headphones are necessary for
doesn't
the
work.
brainwave. It doesn't work otherwise. Yeah, you definitely need headphones.
How about, and so as long as we geek out on this for a second, how about noise? There's a lot of talk right now about brown noise or
Oh, yeah,
Brownian
yeah.
noise, white
Yes,
noise,
brown.
pink noise, all that.
Yes. Well, with the white noise, I would always use it for Alara, actually,
No
when
kidding.
she was an infant every night because, oh my goodness, she she was the worst. She would only sleep when she was first born. She would only sleep like maybe, I don't know, if I was lucky, like an hour
Oh,
a night,
heavens.
right? So we would use the white noise and it would put her to sleep, and she would sleep so much longer, maybe for like an additional 2 to 3 hours. But I mean, I took it. I was like, okay, this is amazing. I feel that the white noise does exactly the same thing to the brain. So it will put you into a different brainwave state to help you rest, to help the body relax, to calm you down. As well as when we're working with binaural beats or with white noise or whatever your preference is, not only does it help the brain waves calm down, but this in returns helps our energy. So it's really going to help to allow the energy to flow better. So, say we're having a day where it's just all about self care, but we just can't self care. We can't calm down enough to give ourselves these self care. We're still on our cell phones, we're still answering emails. It's like, hey, you chose to take a day off. What's going on? So, I feel like we could also use this to help us with our self care as well.
For listeners, I'll make sure that I play some of these so you can actually hear what white noise sounds like. We could try to describe it, but it wouldn't, I mean,
Not at all.
until you hear
Yeah,
it, it doesn't make any sense.
exactly. Yeah.
So do you still use white noise for when
Not
Alara needs to sleep?
anymore. She sleeps straight through the night now, so we have no
Yeah.
problems. Actually, she sleeps from like 8 o'clock and she wakes up at like 7 in the morning. So she
Oh my
sleeps
gosh.
very well. Yeah.
So if you have a toddler who isn't sleeping,
Yeah. And I feel like training her with this as an infant, and we would listen to it every single night.
yeah,
It's almost like it trained her brain to not need it anymore, if that makes sense. So
it
her
does.
brain got so used to it. It's almost like a sound medicine. Her brain got so used to it, it didn't need it anymore. So that's the magic of sound. And what I love about sound so much is that you don't need to be dependent on it. It does what it needs to do to help your body. So it's definitely magical. She doesn't need it anymore. She sleeps straight through the night. She has no sleeping issues whatsoever.
I suspect that something about that has gotten into her in a way that she can recall and sort
Yes.
of when it's time to sleep, she automatically kind of replays the white noise
It's almost
and
like subconscious
yeah, subconscious.
programming. Yeah.
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 And off she goes,
Exactly.
right? Someday, like years from now, you'll have to ask her, see if she still remembers.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to ask to see if she remembers. Now I'm so curious. I just want her to grow up so I can ask her.
Oh, well, that'll
Only
happen
fast
really
forward.
fast.
I know.
Like tomorrow, she'll be 20.
I'm not ready. But yeah,
Oh,
I know. It's already going by so fast.
take it from me, you will be. But it's one of those things. It's like the tones, where all the emotions are contained. You're ready and you're nostalgic at the same time. Like it's great that they grow up and you miss them when they were kids,
Right.
and you missed every aspect of their life up until the point that, that wherever they are.
Right. Yeah.
And you'll have a musical history sort of that you can,
Yes.
refer back to.
Exactly.
A
Yeah.
kind of an archive of where
I
she
love that.
was, where
I
you
love
were
it. Yeah, that's
along
true.
the way.
That's true.
So incredible that we've spoken about family and that's what came from the tones where we started, the violin
I
notes where we
know.
started.
Yeah. That's pretty incredible now that I think about it. Because I
It,
never took the time to like really, well, why would I ask myself that question anyway? That's why you had to ask me.
well,
But
thank you,
it
universe.
definitely, yeah, yeah, it definitely shed a lot of light on, why I do what I do.
When I learned Reiki and learned to give it, I noticed that one of the interesting things about that was that the energy flows through, and the more successful the session is,
Hmm.
uh, the less I'm actually involved, if that makes any sense.
That makes sense. Yep.
I'm just sort of like a garden hose and the water's flowing through.
Yeah.
And I've also noticed that in performance, there are times where I'm all angsty and it's a chore to make the music, and then there's times where it just flows. And when it's been a chore, I'm tired out. But when it flows, I
Hmm.
feel energized at
Yeah.
the end of a long concert. It
Right.
takes me a while to dial myself back down. And I haven't talked about this with anybody,
Hmm.
but I'm curious if your experience of recording or of doing
Oh,
sessions or whatever
yes.
is similar to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that you're talking about this because I never really said this out loud or talked about this on an interview or podcast before, but this is something I've always wanted to talk about actually. So, all right, so let me just bring it back when I was working in Hollywood and I was recording one of my albums I was recording out there. I was so excited about at the time. And I'm like a it's like military. When I go to sleep, I have to go to sleep at a certain time and I wake up at a certain time and it's very structured, just, so I can go about my day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as I was recording this album, it wasn't like that at all. So I would have to go out and record at maybe like 3 in the morning.
Oh, heavens.
And then I would get back and it would be, I don't know, 10 o'clock. And then I'm trying to sleep, but I couldn't sleep. And the reason why I couldn't sleep was because I was just so excited and so fueled off of the energy of
Yeah.
just creating music. And it got to the point where I wasn't sleeping for like 2, 3, maybe even like 4 days. But I was so
You're
energized.
in the zone.
I was in the zone. I was in the zone. And I remember that feeling and wishing that I could always be, you know, in that place of just creativity, of just this excitement, this pure joy inside. And I feel like that alone, if we could figure out how to consistently tap into that energy, I don't think humans would really need sleep.
Well, I know that I've sustained that for a while myself, but probably not 4 days.
Yeah, I could go
But
like 3, 4 days at the most.
could you teach somebody, like you personally, could you teach someone how to do that, you think?
You know what? I feel like you have to find your fire. You have to find that thing that lights you up, that energizes you, that just makes you come alive. It's that thing that will keep you going. It's almost like we're so conditioned. Okay, we have to sleep, we have to rest, we have to eat, we have to breathe. Well, I'm not saying we're not supposed to do these things, but I'm just, just putting a little example out there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we're so conditioned that it's almost like I feel like we're programmed to do a lot of the things that we do currently as humans. And there are just some things that I feel like we are ready to move away from. But in order to do that, it's almost like we have to find our passion, we have to find our flow, we have to tap into that magic, so to speak, to be able to break these habits or break these patterns, these ancestral patterns that are continuously being passed down and taught, throughout the ages. Anyway, the whole reason why I'm bringing this up is because I have experienced this many, many times where I was just able to operate off of no sleep and just pure joy, energy. The joy is what kept me fueled and kept me awake. I'm not necessarily saying, it's a healthy thing and you should just stay up all night and deprive yourself of sleep. But I'm just sharing a little bit about my experience and some of my, the thought process behind that. When it did happen to me, I started having these just epiphanies and these moments where it's like, do we really need this as humans, or were we just programmed to believe these things or operate this way or function this way? So that's how I feel. And I've had a lot of experiences where it kind of like defies, I guess, being a human.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard people describe multi-day psychedelic journeys that same way,
Interesting.
where it doesn't matter that we sleep or eat. It's all about the presence, and the present moment lasts for 4 days or whatever,
Right.
right? But it's that magical presence that somehow sustains us.
Yes,
And I don't know,
yes.
maybe you sleep for a week after that, you know,
Yeah, maybe you do. Yeah.
recover. But those moments, I mean, it's almost a spiritual thing. You read about the wisdom teachers going into the desert, for 40 days with no food, no water. But it's a symbolic experience, but it's also, I think, I was going to say a very human one, because isn't it a part of being human to do that?
Absolutely. To just experiment and realize like, wow, I'm so much more powerful than I give myself credit for. I'm so much more powerful than I really understood, or I love just exploring and seeing the boundaries I can kind of push and the superpowers I can, truly tap into, because I believe that we are truly, truly, truly powerful. We're just not taught how to work with our true raw power and our frequency, our vibration.
I'd say we're not really given the opportunity to play with it. But I
Yes.
understand what you're saying too,
Yes.
because when you get old, it sometimes you have to work to let go of all the things that keep you from playing.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
So it's like a combination.
Yeah, absolutely.
You said something that I love, which is find your fire. As we're sitting here right now on whatever Friday the 28th of October in 2022,
Yes.
what music can you offer people who are listening or watching to encourage them to find that fire?
What music?
Yeah.
Do you like to suggest like a song
Or a tone, or
do you
just
want me to
whatever
sing?
what comes to you. Hey, if you can sing it, I'd love it, of course.
Because that's what I was going to suggest. Would you like me to sing a little something?
I would love it. Sing us some Find Your Fire music, Crystal.
Okay. Here's some fire music to help you. I'm going to channel in some tones, so this will really help you open up and find that fire, that passion within, and really connect.
ASMR. Chills.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really.
Oh, great. Your fire's igniting.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
What an incredible way to end our Friday evenings.
It's so therapeutic, and just singing, I'm like, oh, I feel really good right now.
I know. I want to
could
go
go
play.
to sleep. You're like, I want to play. I'm like, I want to go to sleep.
I don't know if there's anything that you want to add, but is there anything you'd like to add to this?
Just believe in the love that you feel and allow that to guide you.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us on this episode of AHO Radio. Information we mentioned is probably in the show notes, but if we missed anything, please let us know and we'll get it added for you. Subscribe to the AHO Radio channel on YouTube to stay connected, and, as always, we wish you health, success, and significance. AHO!